Jason Zygadlo of Build Your Own Brand is a brand, one of the greatest, most genuine grassroots kind, if you ask me. Working his way up through the ranks in pharmaceutical and medical device sales, he chose to stand out, and he has hilarious stories, you guys, to prove it. And now he's taking what he's learned and he's helping clients to pivot to a calling from careers that seem to be calling them to much more. Plus, again, I believe he's just a really good dude. A cancer survivor with a nonprofit called Ziggy Strong to help other families warrioring through. And I'm inviting you now to listen in as we all learn from Jason's own journey how to break out of the sea of sameness, to use his words, and to live purpose driven lives in a calling, not just a career. When I say it is a pleasure to be able to introduce you to my friend Jason, that might be the understatement of the year. Hi, Betty.
Dawn, good to see you. How are you?
You know what? I'm so good. I'm so good. Well, you
Good, good.
have, we're doing this on the day where we all just witnessed the eclipse. So it's like this rare, kind of unique day. And it was exactly. You can't be too prepared.
I
You
wasn't,
can't be
yeah, Dawn, I didn't know if I was more excited today to witness the sun and the moon kind of cross paths or for you and I to spend time together and just kind of cross paths. So excited to see you, excited to be here. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And it really is a story of how God, I say God weaves, how we even met. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But I want to talk about what you're doing now is so
Sure.
purposeful. It's so helping people. But let's start, if we can, at the beginning. Kent State grad, and you're pounding the pavement.
Yes.
Give me kind of a window into how you were unique, really, from the get go.
Yeah, so I graduated from Kent State University. Go Flashes! I'm a big fan. I spent a lot of time still at the university, contributing time, talent, treasure, everything I can to give back to the university in as many ways as possible. And so once I graduated, I was the president of my fraternity, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do professionally, and so I had a fraternity brother that had suggested perhaps I look into pharmaceutical sales. And so I did just that. And so, kind of back to what you were talking about being creative and different, and some of the things that I did, and stories that you'll want to hear about how I broke into the industry of pharmaceuticals. I had to be different, Don. I had to be creative. I didn't have an uncle or an aunt who was a physician or nurse. I was just a guy, a first generation college graduate that was trying to figure out a creative way to break into the industry. And so I put on my suit and I made my own business cards. I printed my resumes and I put them in nice, shiny folders. And I hung out, if anyone's familiar with the Kent State University geography, that area, there's a place called Mike's Place. It's a popular restaurant on campus, or a little off of campus, I should say. But right across the street, there is a medical office complex. And I would hang out over there because I knew pharmaceutical reps were going to those physicians' offices. And so anytime I saw someone get out of their Ford Taurus or Chevy Impala, this is early 2000s, those were very popular company cars, I would very kindly approach them and say, hey, look, I am looking to break into the industry. There's no LinkedIn yet, to kind of date myself here. But ultimately, I would ask folks, can you help me? And some people looked at me like I was crazy. And some people also looked at me like, wow, this guy's gritty and tenacious. But little did I know back then, when someone got out of the passenger seat, it was a sales manager working with their sales rep for the day. And so getting my resume into the hands of decision makers that way really was helpful for me and put me on the map. And ultimately, that's how I was able to break into the industry. And so
Strategic
I,
stalking. It
was
was like
super excited.
Strategic stalking, I think.
Yeah, low grade stalking. I think that's a good way to put it.
Strategic. No, but if I'm that person getting
but
out of the
but
I
rewarded.
want right, and I want to hire you. If I'm that person getting out of the car and I see you showing up in a unique way with the resume in hand, not just shooting it off. So you come from a place of experience when you're starting to build the kind of what we call callings, a calling over career, I think is what I
Sure.
said. I don't know if those were your words, but for these people who you're helping to build the brand, because when you went on then to go when you had to learn a whole new set of skills in medical device sales. Do you want to tell that story or should we save that?
Yeah, no, I'll tell that story because I think it's equally creative. And so I spent a few years in pharmaceutical sales after I was able to break into the industry. And quickly for me, I was just unfulfilled. I mean, I really enjoyed what I was doing for the time that I did it, but I was looking for something more hands-on, a little bit more aggressive. And I was always told the natural progression was perhaps getting into medical devices. And so as I started to work that process, I was quickly told, hey, you're a pharmaceutical rep. You don't sell anything. You're a glorified lunch bringer. You're, not really responsible for a sales number. You don't sell stuff. And I was offended by that because, that was part of the reason, candidly, why I wanted out of that industry and wanted to make the change and make the transition into medical devices. And so I I went to the mall, I bought a pair of scrubs, and I drove out to an area of my territory that had a hospital in it. And I went from suit to scrubs. And I'll never forget, I saw a sign in the ICU area. It said, do not enter. And I held my breath, pushed the button. I walk in and I hear beeping. I hear these overwhelming noises. But what I do see right in front of me is a physician that I was very familiar with. In fact, he had written me a recommendation letter because he knew that I was looking to change out of the industry and exploring other opportunities. And his name was Dr. David Anstad. I'll never forget it. And he goes, dude, what the heck are you doing? You have scrubs on, you're in the ICU here. And I'm like, Dr. Anstad, thank you so much. I have so many questions. I have an interview coming up to sell medical devices, and I know the products are in the ICU. I know they're used here. I don't know how they work. I don't know anything about them. I was hoping maybe a nurse or yourself or both can teach me. Can you help me? And he was kind enough to flag over a nurse. We sit down at a table, and I am just writing like a madman. I mean, smoke's coming off the paper. I'm taking notes. I'm learning about how these chest tubes work, where they're used. I realized that the brand that they're using was not the brand that I would, in fact, be representing if I earned the job. And so I gathered up all this great information. I write the nurse's name down, her phone number. And a couple days later, I have the interview with the company. And I say, hey, look, before we get started, I have a story to tell. Pull out the receipt from the scrubs, I pull the scrubs out, pull out all my notes. And I say, look, here's what I want to share with you. And this manager, Don, his jaw was just dropped. I mean, he didn't know what was going on. And he was just letting me tell my story. And to make a long story semi-short, I was offered the job just a day or so later from the vice president of sales. And when I met with the vice
There we
president,
go.
he said, hey, look, the hiring manager, he called me. He stepped away because when we were engaging in conversation, he said, look, I need to make a call real quick. And he left, came back, and proceeded to have our discussion. But come to find out, when it all came full circle, the VP of sales said, hey, look, Andy stepped away. He called me and said, we found our guy. Those are the types of guys, what you did and how you demonstrated what you were able to do, and not be afraid, and, be creative and different and memorable. Like, that's what we're looking for. You
Right.
hit it right on the head. And so I'll never forget, I was so humbled and grateful, and my little chin was quivering because I had been told so many times, you're not going to get into medical devices, you're just a pharmaceutical rep. And I just felt so blessed and thankful at the time. And I had a great career in medical sales from that point on. I mean, that was really
Yeah.
the starting point for me.
And I'm going to skip this in the kind of the semi middle, because I want to go to what you're doing now, but I want to also, we're going to circle
Sure.
back about why you were such a good hire for so many reasons that you don't see on paper. And that's what you're trying to tell people now. Look, the paper does not tell the whole story. So we have three points that you could share with people. I like this one. Let's start with this one. Break
Sure.
out of the sea of sameness. And again, this is what you're telling clients, you're coaching clients through Build Your Own Brand.
Yeah. So fast forward to present day, over the course of time, I had helped so many folks. Somehow I became anointed as the person to come to when it came to interviewing preparation and resume building. And, how do you differentiate yourself when it comes to finding that job that you're searching for? And so I, had this calling a few months ago, and with, the strong support of my wife, she's like, look, this is really meaningful work, and this is really what you enjoy doing. You need to explore something that involves this type of work. And so I formed a company called Build Your Own Brand. And to your point, that's exactly what it's built around, is helping people break out of that sea of sameness. I feel like, I don't care what industry you're in, the job search is oftentimes everybody does it the same way. And so, from the two stories that I just told, coupled with, so many other things that you could be doing to stand out, a resume is just a sliver of what it takes in order to land a job. And I think so many people, really need to tap into their creative side and be unique and different and memorable, because those are the people that capture the attention. I mean, I was just talking about this with someone the other day. I feel like attention is the new currency. You have to be captivating, you have to be different, and you have to do something that just gets the hiring manager's attention. And so creating this company is really, my calling, my passion, and what I want to do. I've spent a lot of time over the years speaking at Kent State University and beyond, helping people, kind of figure out their way and their plan of how they want to attack a job search. And it's really neat now to come full circle. And here I am as now my full-time job, helping people find their job. And it's very rewarding.
And speaking of pivot, I want to apologize to everyone watching. The sun that's coming through this window, I'm pivoting. If you can hear me from back, like back here, there's no shadow. I don't know. Can you hear me now? So I apologize. I don't know
You're all
what's
good.
going on. I have the ring light here, so I'm gonna just pretend like it's not an issue because I was distracted. But so part of that break out of the sea of sameness, I love it. Instead of following up, thank you very much for your time. It's so easy. Send a video. Like, give me an example, like a video that you might send to someone to thank them, who is someone who's considering employing.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Dawn. A big part of our program, I mean, we have, certain pillars, if you will, that we walk through and help clients develop a stronger way, to attack jobs. And one of the pillars that we really spend some time on is making personalized videos. And I think that they're just a neat way to differentiate yourself. I can't tell you the positive feedback that I've received thus far when sending someone a thank you through a platform that uses the ability to send a personalized video. I use them in a multitude of ways.
So give me an example right now. We've just finished an interview and you're going
to. Yeah, I would say something like, hey, Dawn, it's Jason. I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. The interview I felt was extremely helpful for me in deciding wanting to be a part of your team. I just thought this would be a unique and creative and more memorable way to just say thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity. I learned so much about you as a person and your leadership style, the company culture. And it did one thing for me, solidified the fact that I want to be a part of your team. So I look forward to learning about the next steps. Thank you so much.
And you're saying it then. You're saying it to them. So they've got that right there and that personalized follow-up. Okay, let's see. Number two, be consistent.
Yeah, I think absolutely being consistent with who you are and what you do and how you approach the process. For me, again, in the build your own brand model, I teach people the exact same blueprint that I use to get very good medical device jobs. I mean, I think, again, above and beyond a resume, the interviewing questions that you're asking, the psychology behind why you're asking those questions and how you set those questions up. I think additionally, the questions that you might be asked from an employer and how to answer those questions effectively, and the psychology again of why that employer is asking certain questions. We spend a lot of time discussing and doing mock interviewing around some of those things I just described. I think additionally, having a 180-day action plan and some sort of portfolio, just like an artist would have, a pile of all their work in a binder. It's no different than you or I exploring a new opportunity. We should have leadership awards and maybe recommendation letters from other folks that we've worked for, perhaps maybe managers or other customers that we've serviced that said we've done good jobs, and things to just really supplement along with a resume really go a long way in helping tell your story and differentiating you as a candidate and how you present those things.
Your
I really,
story. It's all about
absolutely,
storytelling now. It really is.
it
It
is.
really is. Right. And be consistent. So that's excellent. And this one, I second this one 1,000 times over. Network, network, network. Always be networking.
Right? Number one, I tell people all the time, if you don't know how to sell yourself, I don't care if you're a salesperson or think of yourself as a salesperson, you have to know how to tell your story better than anyone. And, the networking part of it, I think, is one of the most important parts. Doesn't matter if you're at church, you're at school, you're at the coffee shop. I mean, I think my wife sometimes is uncomfortable with how I just go up to anyone and strike up conversations. And you just never know when, really, first and foremost, how you can help someone, but then also how they may in fact may be able to help you. And, I'm constantly looking for ways to connect the dots, so to speak. And, there's never a place, in my opinion, that's off limits when it comes to networking. I just can't tell you how many random places that I've been where I'm like, holy crap, like I met this guy or gal and now, I can connect them with this person, or actually that really makes sense for me. I need to follow up with them. And I mean, just really neat ways. If you're willing to be uncomfortable a little bit, right? You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. We talk about
I
that a
have the
lot.
notes. I have the notes written right there. Let's just sit there for a second. Camp out there, as my mentor and friend, I call him, Bab Goff, would say.
Sure.
You have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Tell us more.
Yes, you do. I mean, if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable, I think growth is stunted, right? I mean, you have to figure out ways to just go out of your comfort zone and mingle with people that maybe you normally wouldn't. But at the end of the day, the fruits of all of that, I mean, I can't tell you how many times in my career that I've been on the receiving end. And then again, like I said, I think it's so important. I always approach things with the mindset of how can I help people first? But then, I'm also been very blessed to where those people can, in fact, help me too. So um, networking is huge.
Yeah. And character. A lot of times we stifle our true personalities and what what we could possibly bring to the table that no one else can. And so
Sure.
to that point, I want to just as we round this interview out, I want to talk about, for you, it's not all about just sales. It turns out here you are in the medical industry, and in 2019 you were diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, correct?
I was. Yes, I was. Tough
So
time.
talk me through just briefly, what does that look like when you're trying to keep a career, hold on to a career, and what kind of platform did that set you up for? Because now all of a sudden you have that perspective of being a patient. Tell me more.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, 2019 was the diagnosis. Um, Caught off guard. I mean, I guess it probably is an understatement, but was very blessed and fortunate enough to have medical professionals around me. I mean, I was still a sales rep at the time, and lots of those great people really helped get me in more quickly to see physicians for my own self personally, and appointments were, I think, set up more quickly just because of their help and influence. But at the end of the day, I worked the entire time and did the best that I could. I tried to keep as much normalcy in my life as I possibly could, as I did the chemotherapy every other week on a Tuesday. Usually by Thursday, I was pretty beat up and pretty tired. But it was very important to me to still try to work and still try to just keep the same schedule. But thankfully, through all of this, my wife and I, we came together and said, look, tough time, scary situation, but how can we put something together to help other folks? And so we developed a nonprofit called Walk Along with Ziggy Strong. And so this year will be our 5th annual walk. So it's a big year for us. We've had the opportunity to walk for several people, all battling cancer, some for families. Last year's recipient actually passed away, sadly. But we wanted to just make lemonade out of lemons, right? And how can we do that? And how can we give back? And it was very important to me to want to be a part of something just bigger than my own situation, and what could we do to help others? And this is what we came up with. And so my remission date is February 24th. And so we walk 2.24 miles in our neighborhood. So the 2.24 represents February 24th. And the money that we raise goes to a family that we select, or multiple families that we select. Are individuals, and we just want them to use the money. I mean, first of all, however they choose, but the goal is really to help them do something with their friends or family that just gets their minds off of what they're going through and the hardships. And we talk about just cancer puts a burden on patients and their loved ones, and if we can play a little part in alleviating some of that, then we're excited to do it. So we continue to grow, we continue to get bigger. We now have a board of our own. In fact, we just had our first board meeting. We're really excited about this year's walk. We're having the walk on October 19th, and so this being year number 5, we're hoping to raise 5 figures, or at least $10,000 of donations for our honoraries this year. So
And people like this guy, Jason, are walking even in other states.
yeah, that guy
Wow.
right there, his name is Bert Gallman. He's a fraternity brother of mine. We've been close for a very long time, and he just believes in the mission, and he's in New York, as a matter of fact. And so he was walking his 2.24 miles from New York, and was kind enough and generous to pledge a donation. And yeah, was sent a photo in. That's our family members out in California, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and niece and nephew, and they were doing their walk out in sunny California. So we're touching people from all over. People want to help, and we're really just fortunate and blessed to be able to give back and help families struggling themselves
Yeah.
with cancer and just with the burden that it places on them and their loved ones.
And I feel like, again, it's grassroots by example that you have. You're coaching people on how to build their own brand, but by experience, you're coaching them also to be substantial character and to see the good and to be the good. And let's just point out, as I wrap this up now, that when we met, you were just in remission. Now it's
Yeah.
2020. You're diagnosed February, correct? February 2019.
Yep.
Now it's 2020, and we all know what happened then. And
Yes.
you and Chelsea decided to start essential meals for essential employees.
We
I
did.
mean, this is how you and I met in the first place. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, what a neat opportunity to help physicians and clinicians, actually, just everyone in the hospital that didn't have a choice, right? I mean, they had to step up and work their tails off regardless of the situation. And so Chelsea and I took it upon ourselves to raise money. In fact, we put a lot of our own money in, but we wanted to be able to provide good meals to those essential workers. And I think the mutual beneficial part of the story is there were so many restaurants struggling. In fact, my wife is an attorney downtown, and in her own building, there's a restaurant, Lago, and they weren't selling meals. They just weren't. I mean, COVID had crippled so many different industries, and so we thought, wow, if we can take this money, buy meals from Lago, and then have Lago supply those meals to the Cleveland Clinic, fire departments, UH, I mean, all of our major hospitals and fire, police, all of the wonderful folks that were doing lots of hard work at a time that was very questionable and uncertain. We were happy to do so. And so, yes, that's how we met, Dawn, and forever grateful. But it's a part of my wife and I. It's just who we are, right? We want to help as much as we possibly can. Doesn't matter the situation, big or small. We want to roll our sleeves up. We want to help, and we're excited to do so. So it was a
This is
really neat
why
opportunity to give back.
at the beginning I said you're just a good dude. You and Chelsea, you're just good stuff. People, you just are. And that kind of heart is marketable. I believe in whatever career you're choosing, it becomes a calling then, and it occurs to me when you mentioned that it wasn't just for doctors and
Sure.
nurses, but for emergency workers, people who were essential during the time, when some people could stay home. It just occurs to me that
Yep.
this is a picture of how Brunswick Hills Fire Department showed up for your last year's Ziggy Strong walk, correct?
It is. It is so true. Dawn, we were very adamant. We wanted to make sure that even environmental services, like the janitor folks, were also recipients of those essential meals, right? I mean, they're just as entrenched in the difficult situations that were taking place. And, the nurses and the doctors, I mean, God love them. They do great work, but like, we didn't want to overlook anyone. I mean, there's so many people that had their hands in what was happening and doing a lot of hard work that we didn't want anyone overlooked. And so it was important to us that everyone got those meals and received, the meals that we were providing, because it was important to us. It didn't matter who you were. If you were involved, we wanted to make sure you were recognized and taken care of as well.
I'm going to bring up how people can find you again, the website here. You want to tell people in closing how they can find you then if they want to lean into that grassroots experience that you have of
Yeah,
building
sure.
your own brand.
Yeah, we help a big part part of, just in the medical space, we help a lot of nurses transition into medical devices. We help anyone from any industry, and it's just focusing on, again, the creative approach and how to just represent yourself in a unique and memorable and different way. And so we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but www.careercoachbyob is where you'll find our team. There's a website there that you can dig into and learn more. And if you have any additional questions and want to learn more about the program, or maybe on the fence of whether or not you're looking to transition but not quite sure how, I think an exploratory conversation with me or someone from our team would be beneficial, just to kind of see where you're at and to see if what we're doing could be of service to you.
All right. I want to thank you 1,000 times for what you're doing, for
Thank
what you've
you.
done, for the example that, talk about leading by example. You do just that. So I thank you 1,000 times. God bless you.
I appreciate it, Dawn. Thank you so much. It's so good to see you, and just appreciate your time as well.
Okay. God bless you.